Well, folks, listeners of the program, good friends across the globe. What do we have ourselves here? It's a new week, and we're recording a new subsode. This is going to be episode 12, I think, lucky number 12. I'm joined by a good friend, an awesome human being, a very talented artist. Known this guy for a while. Well, couple years. Whenever I'm in his neck of the woods, we link up. Always full of great conversation. We almost just had a podcast ourselves like 10 minutes ago. So everybody, welcome Ray Vance to the RPD show. Boom, 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 boom.
Thank you for having me. This is long overdue. I'm hyped.
Hey, dude, I'm just glad we made it happen. And obviously, with you got some cool things in the works that we'll talk about, or that
Definitely.
not in the works, but that are happening, very soon. But
Exactly.
how's life treating you? How's the good old COVID? Everything okay?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing good. Nobody I really know close has gotten sick. My neighbor was like infected at one point in time, but we were all good. We're all clear. So things have been pretty solid. Like I said, more emphasis on my spare time into putting it into music. And I'm a hermit by nature anyways. So now not having to come up with an excuse to bail on my friends or go out places, I'm just home. No one expects much. That's great.
Hey, I love it.
Yeah.
I feel you. So it's you kind of find your happy place. Well, for those that may not be familiar, like where are you from? Who is Ray? Like, just give the little bio backstory, just to give them
Cool.
so people can.
Cool. Okay. So I'm from Connecticut. I'm 27. I've been rapping for far too long. I've been making music since I was like 8, but I've been actually recording music for probably 10 years now. I have an album coming out on Friday, and
Woo!
yeah, that's the big news right now. Yeah, I make. I don't even know if I'm a rapper. Dylan and I had that conversation recently. That some of my music doesn't really constitute. So I make music. I am a
You're an
musician.
artist.
That's what I'm trying to say now. Yes, trying to embrace it.
It's very easy to just toss out rapper, when you've been doing it
Yes.
for so long. And I've had some friends, they've kind of slowly transitioned out of that, and it's and that's totally cool. I think you've really found your like groove and like who you are. You're like being who you are. Like you're kind of like making the music that you kind of, it seems like that you grew up on in a sense, like or that inspired you to get into it in the first place. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my next question is like, what inspired you to like make music? Was it just kind of like a fuck it moment, or was it just like, you know what, I really like this thing, like let's give it a try?
It was definitely like something to do with like guitar players. Like I have a very early memory of seeing an Elvis CD and telling my mom I wanted to play guitar, but I don't know if it actually related to that or if that's just me like putting together two early memories. But like I always wanted to play guitar when I was like a child, and so my parents got me a little acoustic when I was 8, and I didn't really play it till I was like 10. Um, but yeah, I always had a draw to music. Like my mom enrolled me in choir when I was like 7. Maybe that was it. Maybe it was probably like my mom having me do that because I actually hated that because I was super self-conscious. So like singing, I still don't like singing with people around. And I'm like, it's like 20 years later, you know? So like I was crying in choir class, like not trying not to sing. But when we sang as a group, I loved it. So it all probably started when I was a kid like that. But physically recording music, it was some of my friends in high school came up with the idea to do music for a school project, and our teacher was cool with it. And so my friend got some equipment, and then like that evolved into, you know, me just kind of doing it in my spare time because I'm an only child. So like I had a lot of free time everywhere I went, and I'm normally a hermit. So like even when I was in college, I kind of just posted up in my dorm room and I had something to do, you know, and rapping was way more tangible than playing guitar. That's kind of how it evolved. Like guitar and singing is so hard and writing music is so hard, but putting words together is definitely like a little bit more rudimentary thing. Like we already speak English, we already write it. You don't have to learn the language. I feel like that's how I evolved into rap. And now I'm kind of flipping it, trying to play more guitar, trying to bring more music back to it. And I like it. I really, really find like, I guess it's very fulfilling making music this way. But yeah, that's only really like recent that I've been playing a lot of guitar is like COVID. That's another thing, you know, I'm home all day, so I play a lot of guitar. And
Yeah, why not learn more and pick it up, you know? Why not? It's
yeah,
kind
and
of how
I
this
hadn't
thing
really
started.
played guitar in a while. Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah,
Gotta
you
get
started the podcast during this time, so it's great.
I reached a point of like, fuck it. Well, I've been wanting to do one for a while and I overthought it. And then the podcast legend, the bearded man, Bobby Hobart, was like,
Yep.
Ryan, you just got to do it. And I'm like, all right, man, you're right. And then we kind of bounced names and Dylan helped me out a little bit and here we are. So
That's phenomenal.
yeah.
The bearded man with his motivation every day, running shirtless, better
Dude, I don't,
technique,
it's like, I don't know how
living
he
in a
does it.
better state, just like always talking about like, got banged up last night, running it out. You know, like some what's the most recent quote right now is bad decisions make good stories or some shit like that.
Yeah.
I feel like he said that like 25 times in the last week, and I love it.
Dude, he's probably one of my favorite people that I follow, like, well, that I know and that I follow. You know, we don't always talk all the time, but like he just following his journey from afar is just so awesome. He's just the man. He's himself. You know,
great.
This is gonna turn into the Bob Hobart podcast here, but
yep. And then it will pivot into Dylan, and then we'll get to 5-Star Vintage. We'll just cover the house.
Just the whole house. Just talking about our friends podcast.
That's how our conversation started. So
yeah, I mean we were talking, and I was like, oh shit, might as well let's get this thing going. Let's hit record. You know.
Yeah.
But getting back, you have a new album on the way.
Yes.
I don't want to mess up the name, so I'll let you say the name. It's called Care Less, or I Care Less.
It's called Could Care Less.
Okay, see?
Yeah. No, you're fine.
What can you tell me about that? Or what can you tell people about that? When's it dropping? All that.
So it comes out on Friday, which is November 13th, which is actually dope. I didn't think of it being Friday the 13th, but I really like that.
Just fell in the place.
Yeah, I normally don't release on Fridays, and then I switched to doing that these last few releases, and I like it a lot. But it's also just funny that it's Friday the 13th. But yeah, it's a collection of singles I've released over the last few months with a few new songs coming out on the album. But yeah, I mean, it kind of started when I was on tour last year. Right before I went on tour, right before I put out Lazy Boy, the last album, I had a handful of singles that were in this style. And one of them was No Nosebleeds, which came out in December right after tour. And I performed it the whole time on tour. And that was like the song that I loved and that it felt the best live. And so it was really cool because that's very similar sounding to this album. And that kind of just like laid the groundwork for me to start kind of working in that style. And by style, I mean like alternative rock, pop, punk, guitar-based trap beats, I guess, like if you want to really break it down. And that's kind of what I was doing. And that led into like some of these songs. But yeah, 10 songs that I'm really hyped about. I have an intro track that I played guitar on, which is cool. So that's the first song that'll be out that has guitar from me, and it's really, really quiet in the background, but it's me playing guitar like on a song. So that's one of the coolest feelings ever. And yeah, it's called Couldn't Care Less. The merch just says Care Less. So that's where you're getting.
Yep, that's where I got that from.
You're getting it flip-flopped. But that's what I was saying. It's like my most used phrase when I'm at work. I'm like, yeah, I couldn't care less. Like they ask me about stuff. I'm like, I couldn't care less because I really couldn't.
That's where the idea stems from, or like the inspiration.
That's one of them.
Because your job and the balance between your job and your music career, in a sense.
Yeah, or just and then the second is with Dylan. And we were talking about how I'm always worried about everything. And so we were going to call it No Worries. And I was like, I don't know if I really feel that. And we were thinking it's just the opposite. Cause like I'm always worried about music and then I'm at work and I really couldn't care about how things play out. So it's so funny how my mentality switches. And like I said, I can't say fuck this at work, but I can openly say like, yeah, I couldn't care less. And like people are like, okay. And so I was actually explaining that to a guy recently at work, and he thought it was hilarious. And so I
It's
felt great
amazing.
about it.
I don't want to get you in trouble here or anything, but I think you tweeted like a few months ago or whatever, and you were like, it was like, oh, all my coworkers getting worked up about work or something, and it's like I can care less. Like this,
Yeah.
yeah, or whatever. I mean, I don't know the exact tweet, but I thought that was great. But
Yeah. I just
I'm,
found that if I put less emotion into my job that I don't really care much about, it's a lot more enjoyable because I don't get like as frustrated when things don't go my way because it's whatever. That's also the other reasoning here is that it's like care less in a sense of like you can't control everything in your life, so like let some shit slide. And I found that I'm like just less ornery when I get home from work, when I don't put as much stock into the stuff that like I actually have to do there. Like I get it done, but I'm not like emotionally invested.
yeah, I think that's great because I think we all, I mean, we all get worked up on jobs or like
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and it's like at the end of the day, it's just a job. We're human
Yeah.
beings. Like you get fired or whatever, or let go. Like, oh well, you'll find another one. Like I'm
Yeah.
totally confident. Like it's fun. I mean, we're not gonna go political, but like in a recession or bad economy, it's like I've had 2 jobs this year. Like I've worked for Amazon and I
Mm-hmm.
work for this plumbing company right now. Like,
Yeah. So you found a way
like
to make it work, and you had a
yeah,
whole different job last year. So think of it: within a
yeah,
calendar year, you had 3 jobs. You just like
yeah,
I'm not like you just have to believe in yourself and
and
then take chances and go
yeah,
for
and
things.
pivot.
Like
Yeah,
that's really
like
what it is.
yeah, and I'm kind of what I was getting at too. Like people like you, people like myself, people like our friends, like a lot of our friends, like they like a job is just a stop in the road for us. It's like to get us from A to B, not to
Yeah.
Z or D or whatever letter.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just like the bigger picture at hand. And I think all you, myself, a lot of we're smart enough people and like know how to
Thank you.
do things. Like, yeah, of course. We could pretty much adapt and figure out how to do most jobs. So it's like it's finding something else wouldn't. I don't think be that hard. And I'm not saying like, oh, like you know, let's get fired. No, not at all. It's good to have a
No,
job,
not at all.
but
Not at all in the slightest.
I think you get what I'm getting at. Sometimes I suck at explaining things, but
You're fine. No, I totally get it, dude. I totally get it. But yeah, like I had that mentality, and it hasn't held me back at all. Ever since I started feeling that way, I started being more confident at work, and I stopped like getting as caught up in the way I worded everything and how like I wouldn't beat myself up over stuff. And I found that everything started working better in my manner. Like when I went on tour last year, like I really realized how much I didn't want to be back at work. But when I got back to work, I realized that I wouldn't have been able to go on a tour if I didn't have the money from work and things like that. So it's like everything serves its purpose, and you just have to realize that opportunities will come when they come. And yeah, so when Dylan and I came up with that idea for Couldn't Care Less, I was like actually a little worried because I was thinking like that comes off like, oh, I don't care about anything, like care less about things. And I was like, I don't want people to take it that manner. It's more of a lighthearted way of looking at it, where it's like you got to care about the things that are important to you. You can't care about everything all the time. Let it
no,
eat you up.
I think you've got the right mindset with that. I remember when I was talking to Dylan and he's like, "Yo, you got to see Ray's album artwork," and he sent to me. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like I legit was blown away. Like I think him
Yeah,
and Kirk did that, and I just was like, "You guys crushed it." Like
yeah, they're great.
very talented folks. Um,
Come down. My dog's gonna start
uh,
growling at somebody, but that's fine.
what's your
But yeah,
dog's name? Oh,
my dog's name is Riley. So
hey,
that's
oh,
why when I told people the album was featuring Riley, a lot of people thought it was Riley.
oh, you're the
And
dog.
yeah, and like when I performed with Riley, the guy, I didn't know him. And so I didn't know anything about him going into it. And I gave a shout out after my set. It was me, Frank, and Kat were the only 3 people there. I told them I wasn't going to sell any tickets, but they still let me on the show, and it was awesome. It was out in Philly. And I didn't know anything about Riley, and after my set, I said, "Shout out my dog Riley," and I literally meant shout out my dog at home, Riley. And Kat and Frank laughed so hard at it, and then Riley came up on stage, and I dapped him. I was like, "Yeah, you my dog," and then like I didn't mean it in any derogatory sense. I just thought the funny manner of shouting out my own dog while everybody was there to see this other guy, and they got hyped over it. I was like, I just thought it was funny. But he's such a cool dude. So I'm hyped he's on my album because I've known him for we met each other about a year and a half ago. But
wow.
Yeah.
That's fine. I didn't know that. So that I thought like, because sometimes features are just like, you reach out to people and like, yeah, I like this song,
Exactly.
do it. But I didn't know you had the relationship there and you guys knew each other.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it that way. I mean, obviously I don't know Mod Son, but like I wish I did.
But I mean, like he was a perfect fit on that song, so it's like.
Yeah, well, I also made that like a goal last year when I was on tour. Like we were at Luke's house, we were at Abstract's house, and we were watching the Mod Son interview on the You Never Know Mike Stud podcast. And I was like, guys, I want to get a feature from Mod Son next year because like I'm trying to make pop punk, alternative rock, like rappy, like poppy, like music that represents like the same era that he's trying to capture. And Kirk and I stayed up super late one night talking about fucking pop punk and Paramore and like nerding out over bands.
He loves that shit.
And this is before I met Bo. So then a few days later, I met Bo and we had the exact same conversation again. And I was like, damn, like I'm really talking about wanting to do this and I haven't done this type of stuff. And then, I just kind of like placed feelers to all the producers that I was semi close with that I at least like had like an online relationship with. And asked them for pop punk alternative beats and stuff, and I got a handful of them. Like I got the beat for All My Life, like when I was on tour, and I didn't write to it for a while, but like I was cultivating all these things, and I was saying to everybody that I wanted to get a Mod Son feature, and I still didn't even have a song around like May, and then I wrote Scars, and I was like, this is way more poppy than like the rest of the stuff. But it was one of my like I don't know his verse blows me away on that song, and I did not expect that. So that's the best part. Like he exceeded my expectations, and I was blown away when I heard that was sick. But yeah, so Mod Son, like I don't know him, but he was the perfect reach of somebody that I could get in contact with and have, because Futuristic is arguably larger and equal in size, but I wouldn't have been able to really get a feature from him before Indie Amplify if I hadn't gone on tour with him, and met him. So Mod Son, it was like a really opportunistic thing that I if I'd hit his manager up now, there's no way I would have got that feature, because they're doing an album. So it was all perfect timing.
That it's kind of funny how things work out, but
I'm so hyped over that.
Yeah, I mean, the track list looks really good. I mean, Riley,
that's what I was gonna say.
Futuristic and Mod, like I think it's always cool to see artists have like a what do you call it? Like a reach, not like a reach, but like not someone they'd normally work with, but like they're on the album. It's like, oh shit, like an album I really liked. I forget what it's called, but Gashi, he released an album and he had Sting on one of his songs, and it's like, damn, that's hella cool.
Yeah, and like he might not know Sting, but that's still super fire. And Gashi's awesome.
Yeah,
I started listening to his music again a little bit earlier on this year, but I don't know if I really checked out that new album. I didn't know Sting was on it, so
it's very 80. It's very 80s esque, because I think I forget the name of it.
That's sick.
Yeah,
isn't it called like 88 or something like that, or something along that line?
I'm gonna look it up real quick on Spotify. Bear with me, folks. I don't have a research guy on deck, but here we are. I want to. If for some reason, if Gashi listens to this podcast, I want to like come correct.
What was it called? Was it just called Gashi? Oh no, it was 1984.
1984. So yeah, that's where the 80s, it's
cool.
comes from.
Oh, he does have Sting. Oh, he's got pink sweats. That's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Damn, that is sick.
But it's super cool when artists do stuff like that. Even larger, the bigger ones on labels or like almost like in a sense like when like the Weeknd dropped his album Starboy, and you see that he has Daft Punk on it, and it's like, what? Like that? When would and then obviously the song's freaking fire, and it's a hit. But so I think it's cool that like you really put your all into the album, obviously, and just you swung for the fences on a feature, and
I
well, I don't
really
say
did.
swing for the fences, but like you figured out one that like
I
made
mean,
sense.
I wouldn't, if you had told me I was going to get a feature from Mod Sun and Futuristic, like before I had booked that tour, like I probably wouldn't have believed you at the time. It was like all these little steps that it seemed achievable at a time.
Yeah.
And yeah, the track list looks so sick just having their names on it. But the best part too is the credits on the bottom having all the homies on it. Like it has Dylan on there, it has Cryo, it has Kirk, Roger, who's like my main producer for a lot of these songs. Like I love that kid. His beats are sick. And am I missing anybody else? And then obviously Mod's on like Zach, and then Riley. It's sick,
dude. I mean, you're gonna look back and it's like, damn. I mean, like no matter what happens, it's like you're gonna look back and just be like, damn, I'm really proud of that body of work.
Definitely.
So, hell yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for it to come out on Friday and check it out, and I hope people do the same because this is what do they call it? This is recorded in not the well, it's not Friday yet.
Wait,
This
when
is
did this come
Wednesday. This
out?
is Wednesday the 11th. It comes out Friday the 13th. So by the time this episode,
Yeah, do you even like?
let me check the calendar. So I have one that's
Because we
coming
can
out
say out
on
now if it is.
what's that?
It's gonna come out after, right? Like this is
Yeah,
gonna come out after Friday. So my album's out now.
yeah. His album is out now, so go check that out.
Yeah, cool. That's cool
Good,
to say
good.
because I haven't been able to say that yet. That's cool. That's cool. We're in the future now.
Yeah, it's coming out. This episode will be out on the 23rd, so like the week of Thanksgiving, because it's like I got
Yo, did
another
you
one.
play Backyard Baseball, by the way?
Dude, Pablo Sanchez
The
is the
video
goat.
game?
Pablo
Yeah,
Sanchez
my buddy designed this beer glass, and he drew all these little designs for this company to make, and I just drink soda out of it, but I love it,
that's amazing.
and he was like it.
I missed that game. Going over to a friend's house and we'd play that
Yes.
all night, and it's like go to bed. It's like, but we're having a sleepover. Come on.
That's literally childish right there.
Yeah, I know.
And that is what my album's about. No, I'm kidding.
Quick plug. So something I want to talk to you about a little bit about, since you've mentioned a couple of times, tour life. You mentioned that you were able to tour last year before, it's not a thing. So I just want to touch base on just like your experience, your overall experiences with it, and just like your thoughts. And I don't know, because I mean, not everyone is as fortunate as us to, whether they're in regular people or they just are in the music industry. Like they don't know what the tour life is like. So
Yeah.
let's talk about that a little
I
bit.
wouldn't.
It's fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like I'm a veteran. Like I don't know what the tour life is like, but this was something to where I was talking to my parents about it, and they were like, we were like talking about how I'm like so thankful that I was able to go on tour the time I did because there's no tours right now. And so imagine if I passed on that because it didn't feel right. And then I thought I was going to line something up for spring for the first tour ever. Mind you, this was my first tour ever. So like, so I had to take it. And yeah, like I really had, it kind of blew me away though when that came up because I had thought it was like August. I had thought all fall tours were booked, and I really didn't think I was getting one anymore because we were talking about being on a few other tours like in June, July, and they fell through. And so I was like, it's not gonna work. But yeah, that was, or was it September? It might have been September. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was right before my album came out. And I remember telling Dylan that I didn't even remember my album was coming out because I was so caught up in the fact that I was going on tour. That's what it was. So it was either late August or early September because Lazy Boy was 9/9. So it was September 9th. But yeah, man, I mean, tour was sick. I really liked it. It was one of the better experiences I've ever had. And I think it had something to do with the fact that like, I knew, like I took vacation time from work to go on tour. Like I did 2 like 8-day runs a month apart, like or 3 weeks apart. So my boss was cool with it because I don't take vacation time from work. I save as much of it as I can. and for times like this. So I knew that I was going to have ample time. And like, if I made, like, when I brought it up to him, he was like, oh, wow, that's a lot of vacation time. And then I was like, I have this many hours that I haven't used in the last few years. And he was like, take it. And he like literally like didn't care at that point, where he was like, shit, you deserve this. Like, I know you really want it. And he was actually really hyped for me, which was cool to hear. And yeah, so the whole time I was on tour, I knew I could have been at work. So I made the best of every situation. Like, it felt good. Like, some stuff sucked. You know, we had some weird shows. My sound didn't work for the first 3 sets that I did. Like, I was basically doing like a modified acapella set where you could like kind of hear some of the beats, and I was just shouting. And like, Luke got to see one of those shows, and like, you could tell that he knew. Like, he gave me a lot of good advice, and he was like really proud that I was on tour. But like, I knew the crowd didn't care for me at all, because like my sound was all fucked up. So that was like really big hurdle. But I kept just like kind of, maybe it was only the first 2 shows. I can't remember if it was 3 or not, but it was a couple, and it was really demoralizing. But I was still hyped to be on tour. You know, I was still hyped to be, you know, like ripping a vape pen like in the back of the tour bus, like talking about music with other people that were doing what I did. You know, like the first few shows were with Dylan. Like, why wouldn't you want to spend enough time in a van with Dylan? But I don't see him. You know what I mean? He's in Cali. I'm out here in Connecticut. We FaceTime all the time, and I talk to him, but I'm not in his presence letting him rip on me for a whole day. You know, it's just a few hours that we're on FaceTime. So it was really fun. And then, the second leg of tour, actually, no, in the first leg of tour, I ended up doing a few shows with Luke and Craig. And so that was sick, because I had never really met them in person. I met Luke at the show in New Hampshire. That was one night. And then I was with Echo and No Big Deal the second leg of tour, and they were awesome. So like, being around people like that was a whole different mindset. Like, I never really, like, you know, I'm at work around a bunch of engineers, and then I go home and I hang out with my friends that aren't musicians. And then I was in a van with some rappers, and they were talking about their releases when their albums come out, the way they do stuff. And I was like, oh shit, like soaking it in, man, loving it.
That's amazing.
That was cool.
I'm really glad you got to experience that. It seems like you had a great time. And what's I just put 2 and 2 together. What's you're saying is your first tour, and ironically enough, when we first met was when I did my first tour. So like, it was very cool. And I, you know, and that's what's kind of cool about doing this podcast too with you, is just because like you know, just you as a person and as an artist have grown so much since when I first met you. Like, I mean, you were like, you were just so cool and like on board with everything. And I think that was the 3rd show of the VR run, or 4th show. And like, I still didn't really have a grasp of what was going on. I just was kind of like, yeah, sure. Like, no, you can't do that. You know?
Just making snap decisions, going with your gut. Like, because that was an extra show, right? I'm pretty sure you guys weren't even going to do a New Hampshire show, but Dylan couldn't get a Connecticut show for me. And then he was like, I could swing a New Hampshire show. And then he just added it, like, kind of last minute, I think, because he was running that whole tour. Like,
because Matt
ahead of time.
Yeah,
you
Matt,
were the tour manager. I'm not saying that.
Matt, because he lives like,
that's what it was.
Matt Keene. He used to live. I think he has a new spot.
Shout out Matt Keene.
He's the man. Him and Dylan, you know, they brought me on for that run, and I'm just like, all right, let's do it. And honestly, it was the time of my life, and I will never forget that.
Yeah.
The virtual reality, you know, I mean, that's how Dylan and I got real close. It was just a great time. Like, I mean, me and Cody are, you know, like, we're all just friends. Sometimes we still.
Cody was on that.
Yeah.
That was the other thing.
Cody.
Like, I didn't know Cody. Like, I didn't know him from that set, because he didn't DJ my set.
No.
And I didn't really talk to him much because I was probably intimidated, because I was like, you guys were on tour, and I was still like, I mean, I did get really drunk that night.
Well, you were like the local guy, you know, and I know what you mean, but
it's a whole different atmosphere being the local guy and then being direct support, and I didn't know that. And everybody was so chill on tour, and the whole time I thought I was going to be treated like the opener, like the local opener, where like you're just somebody there for the night, so people aren't as friendly with you. Like, obviously we're friendly, but we're not like, hey, come back here and drink, and we're going to have all these inside jokes over the course of a period of time and know each other, you know? Like,
and I mean, that's the thing though. I mean, you got to read the room a little bit, but like, I try to treat the local, you know, no matter who, like,
Oh, definitely.
well, so it's like, and it just happened
But
that like we clicked and we,
mhm.
ended up staying in touch and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Cody though, like he like showed me the ropes, and like how it's done and like what we should be doing. Like I remember it was
That's
the night,
cool.
like I know it was like the night before the very first show in New York. We're at Dylan's house. And I'm like, yeah, we don't have a hotel room booked. He's like, really? I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm just kind of jumping into this, and like the three artists are funding this, so it's like I gotta.
Yeah.
And the first, it's hectic because like Luke and Ryan were meeting us in New York, and like Dylan, Cody, and John. Oh yeah, John was on that run too. Fucking love John.
Yes.
And we were all being them there in New York, and it's like heck, just like I'm in over my head. And then like 2 shows in, Cody's like, or a few shows in, Cody's like, you got to be more stern. Like I know you're a nice guy and everything, but like you got to like put your foot down sometimes. I'm just like, okay, man. Like thanks for like the, like
Yeah.
that's the cool thing about
You
the,
need
the
an
work.
outside perspective.
Yeah, the workspace, because it's like you got to be communicative and honest, but like also not like a dickhead. I mean, most some people are real dickhead. You come across some dickheads, but like I don't quite believe in that type of communication. I mean, if you have to, I guess, but like, nah, there's no reason for that. But
Yeah.
there's my little rant. So yeah,
No, but that was the same thing with me, man. Like, Dylan was on tour with me. He was the one that was like easing me through the whole like not having sound issues, real and like all that stuff. Cody ended up fixing it for me. It was like Cody and a sound guy. The third show, we're like, what the fuck's happening with this kid? And they like really helped. And then our merch guy, Fatty, he was the shit. He gave me a ton of advice just on like being like little things like after a show, like instead of just walking around and like and trying to like almost find fans, it was just easier to kind of be near Zach, near the merch table, near the things I was like using to promote myself. And like people were already coming there, like, and I was like floating around with like Bo, like talking about shit, like just talking with Bo, but it's like the show is still happening, like even when it's done, like there's fans there, they're all talking to Zach, like go over there. And I remember he said it to me one day where he was like, if Machine Gun Kelly was standing in front of a table of all of his merch, he's like, wouldn't you talk to him and buy some? And I was like, yeah, I'd buy all of it. And he's like, why are you not near any of your merch, not talking to any of your fans? And I was like, okay, yep, you're spot on. And then I like ended up talking to a lot more people, and it's like little things. Like I was just awkward, and I like, didn't really know what to do. And then he was like, come over here, stand by your stuff. And then like, little do I know, like that's what everybody else is doing. So sometimes you just need like a little bit of extra advice here and there from people. But it was nice. Like everybody that was, I shouldn't say everybody, because I think Ashley, our tour manager, that was her first tour. And I was there for the first show. So yeah, I mean, it was interesting the whole run. But I got a lot of advice from all them. A lot of cool, and I made a lot of good friends. So
soaking up free
I'm very
game and
thankful for it.
and uh making friends. That's what's
Mm-hmm.
so fun about it. I mean, uh that after the show merch table, like that's like where you
Yeah.
before and after the show is when you make like, that's the bread and butter.
Yeah, because I even think I was probably like in the green room one time, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know, what's happening." Like where should I be? Like the show ended, and then I went and like I broke like that was the one thing, like Cody always made sure I broke down my stuff immediately so I didn't lose it. And one time I thought I lost my mic, and I almost crumbled, and they were all like, "You're fine." And it turned out that like another artist had snagged it, so we were fine. But yeah, it was like little things. Like I remember because the show is unique. They did an acapella set at the end, and I always did a verse, that was another thing. Like Zach really put me on, man. Like he did a acapella set after every show, and he would have rappers come up and rap, and he always let me go last. So like all the artists that are there to see Zach, that are like fans that wish they were able to tour with him and rap, like would rap, and then Zach would grab the mic, and then I would be the one that would get it last, and it was sick because it's not the show ended that way. Like obviously it gets passed back to Zach, but like I would get the rap at the end, and he would give me like a little run up, and I didn't do it the first 2 shows because I was all demoralized about like my set not really working. And then one day Dylan was like, let's do it. Let's rap. And he's like, I'll go first. You go after me. And then Dylan went up and he spit some fucking crazy bars. And I fumbled through it. And then And then I killed it from there on out. And that was cool. You know, like that's Zach tossing us a softball. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not the entire crowd is there when I go on. But
Right.
when he goes on, that's going to be the max amount of people. And then he does a set and he lets us rap. Like, he even put like kids in the crowd. Like, one dude was the security guard in Portland, threw his hand on my back when I finished my verse. And then he went, "Let me get that." And he was this big dude, and he was up on a stair ahead above me. So it was like this huge security guard right over my shoulder. And he's like, "Let me get that." And then I handed him the mic, and he was like, and he like went into a rap, and I was like, "This is sick." And so like, I don't know, it was really tight thinking that like Zach, and there was like a lot of people at the Portland show, so like Zach was letting everybody get a verse in, you know, and that was really cool. Damn, I actually forgot about that. Like, I hadn't brought that up in a while.
Wow. Memories.
That was nerve-wracking the first time. That was more nerve-wracking than my set any night, was doing that verse at the end.
Oh, because there's probably a solid, what, like 300-400 people there probably? 200? 500?
The biggest show was like in Portland. It was like 150.
Okay.
Maybe
But
200. I really don't know. I'm not good at ballparking.
Yeah.
But
it was
their
packed
whole
tight,
standing
so
room.
like it looked huge. But
Yeah.
I mean that
And
him doing that though, I mean, it just being around good people. Because I mean, the tours I've done with Dylan, like the Hold Up, well, he's now Michael Garmany. That's his legal name. So Mike would bring him out. Like Mike would, yeah, he's awesome. Mike would bring him out mid set, and they would do a cover sometimes. And then
that's sick. I forgot about that.
And then they crushed it, but like sometimes they didn't do it. But what the Catastro run too, the Catastro guys brought him out because like he was first of 3. So it's like most of the time, majority of the people weren't there when he got on. So, but then, you know, obviously when Catastro's performing, everyone's dialed in, and then they kind of get to see Dylan. And so like that, you know, doing little stuff like that, like really brings value to being on a tour, you know, just soaking up the fans and all that, and fun stuff. I mean, dude, I'm just happy you got to experience that. Cause like, what would you have been able to live with yourself in a sense where if you passed on it, and like obviously where the world is now, you'd have been like kicking yourself every day, probably like, fuck, I messed up. But that's why I think sometimes it's important to take chances, as long as it's not like, I mean, I feel like people take these out of context nowadays, where it's like you got to take a risk or take a chance, and then not like a chance where it's like you're putting your whole house on the line, or like putting all your chips completely in. I mean, I guess sometimes you're gonna do that, but but taking a risk like that, where it's like you don't know what's gonna happen really, but like I'm in, and you're in a position where you could do that. And
it's also like, it doesn't always have to be like a financial risk or like your actual like livelihood risk. It can be like emotional in a sense, like performing so many dates in a row on tour. Like, yes, I always wanted to do that, but like, am I physically prepared for it? Like, I was really nervous going into it, and I had played a good amount of shows in my past, but never like consecutive days in a row with the same people hearing my set. And like, I almost didn't even feel comfortable until like the whole tour started coming out, like all the people that were on the tour, like all the other artists, besides Zach, because Futuristic, obviously he's not going to come out in the crowd and like distract, but like there were certain shows where he'd be in the back listening. And like when everybody came out and they got hyped for my set that they've already heard like 4 times, then I started realizing like I was comfortable with it and I felt really good. But it's like, I could have let that like nerves make me say, no, I'm not going to go on this tour. Like, I don't think I'm ready. You know what I mean? Right. So the risk was like almost like more emotional than anything, where I was like, I mean, can I do this?
I mean, I don't relate on an artist level, but I remember when I was doing my first run.
You're managing people.
Yeah, like, and it was like am I cut out for this? Like Dylan obviously put faith in me. He was like, I think you'd crush it. So I was like weighing it. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot, and like if I suck and I hate it, blah blah blah, it's just something I'll never do again. And I learned that I'm not cut out for it. But obviously at the time of my life, and it definitely changed my life. So thank you. I mean, it's hard when you're caught up in that, and people are like, man, you're like just doing really good job or whatever. And it's like, really? I'm just like being like, it's like natural to me almost, just like taking care of people, and like it brings me joy like when I'm taking care of.
How many tours have you done since that first one? Because that was 2 years ago, right? Or was that?
It was the end. It was pretty much 2 years ago.
Yeah, because that year I only performed 2 shows, dude. 2 shows. I did
Wow.
the show with you guys there, and then I did another show where I opened up for Dylan. And then the following year, I think I did like 15 or 16. And
Wow.
like, it's crazy to think that I did that. Like, I get it that that's not like a huge number in it by any means, but to me, like that was a huge milestone. But for you, you did like a handful of tours in like the last 2 years, right?
A little bit. So I did. So I'm gonna give you a breakdown. So I did the VR tour, and I just was like, like, me and Dylan would stay in touch, and he knew I liked it a lot, and so like he wanted, he was kind of like, you're my guy going forward. So I was like, bet, just let me know. And we were trying to figure out how to get him back on the road, and then randomly the hold up situation happened, and
Yeah.
I was stoked on it. So I did that. So like I did the VR tour ended like September of 2018, and then I didn't get back out there till March of 2019. That the hold up
Oh,
tour was
okay.
like, yeah. So like then the hold up tour was like with Dylan was like,
That tour was huge.
yeah, it was like 18 shows maybe in like a month. So like it was pretty manageable. But originally Catastro was supposed to be a Catastro in the hold up tour, but Catastro had to drop it because they ended up going on this big summer reggae tour with Iration and Pepper and Fortunate Youth.
Yeah.
And so since Catastro dropped, that opened the door for Dylan. But then Catastro's tour manager at the time, Colby, he was doing stuff for the hold up mic. So then I kind of bounced off him at the end. I'm like, hey, like if you ever need help on Catastro stuff or whatever, or of anything, just like please let me know. I'm looking to keep this going. And then sure enough, like the week the week it ended, he said, hey, how would you feel about like helping me out and doing merch on Catastro's summer run and I looked at it, and it's like, like it's basically like it was, I gotta have the thing here somewhere, but it was like an insane run. It was like the end of April all through May. June is pretty much off, then all of July and like to the end of August. So it was like 55 shows in a summer. And like these shows were just like massive. Like I think we weren't a part of it, but like one of the shows, like at the end of like the first leg was at Red Rocks, but like we weren't a part of it, unfortunately.
Oh, damn.
So it's like these were like huge shows. Like we did one in LA, and it was like, I think it was like a 10,000 cap, and they did like 8,000 people. And like
that's crazy.
And Catastro was like the first band, and so like then I did that, and then like it just was crazy. Like I don't know, it was just a long. It was like a one long summer camp, awesome summer in a sense. Even though like I felt super out of place in a sense because like I was like the new, because like in the reggae scene, everyone has everyone kind of tours with each other and all that, and everyone knew each other for a while, and like I'm like kind of the new guy, and I'm one of the younger guys on there, and yeah, so I kind of had to find my place, but like I did my thing as usual and kind of made friends, and it was all love. And then after that, it ended at like the end of August, and then Catastro was gearing up for a November run for their new album Tropical Heartbreak, and I tossed Dylan, we tossed around Dylan's name like and as a potential opener, and then it's kind of his people talk to my people or whatever.
That's
I don't know.
awesome.
They they talked it through, and I was like, let's do it. And then then I did that in November with them, but like I was like doubling down. It was pretty crazy. I was like TMing for Dylan and doing his merch, but also I was doing merch for Catastro at the same time.
Yeah.
So like I was like, it was a stressful but fun time. Like I just was like all over the place just because it was like I had to make sure their numbers were right, and his number, So it was just like a lot. But
I didn't realize how annoying that was till I had to do it. And I didn't even sell a lot of merch, but I watched dudes sell a lot of merch, and I was like, shit, I don't have any of this prepared. I'm just like, yo, can you Venmo me? Like, you know what I mean? Like no, that's really how it was.
But you don't know until you know. Like, I think
I'm still not prepared. If I were to go on tour, I think I'd still be the same guy unless I had somebody running merch for me. But I'd be like, yeah, you got cash, or are you gonna Venmo me? Like, scan it. Like,
I think you can't go wrong if you have like every form of payment, like cash. You have like a chip reader, you got Venmo or PayPal, whatever. But so yeah, I did. I mean, the summer tour was kind of divided in half, and so it was like it was one tour, but it was almost like two because like it was just so massive. So I would say I did like 4 tours last year, which is pretty crazy. But
so dope.
yeah, I mean, I was ready to have a pretty good year this year, and then like,
Oh man.
but hey, it's all good. Like I'm real blessed. Like I have a job where I have a consistent check, and it's not like a stressful job really. I just do delivery. I mean, I was doing Amazon for a while, but I couldn't stand it because just the work, like the hours were nuts, you know?
Really?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
um,
You got to find something that fits for you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
and I mean, this is not like a long term play, but maybe I'll do it for another year or so, or who knows? But
however long you need till tours come back, basically.
yeah, but so it's a nice stop in the road. Yeah, so I did a few that year, and that was fun. Um, that question kind of stemmed off of well, I was going to ask you one because you were
You're
talking
fine.
about like you weren't ready emotionally,
Yeah.
and I think you're the perfect person to talk to about this because like I know you've gone through your mental health battles and all that, but like the mental health of being an artist, I think, is just not talked about just because there's so much going on. I mean,
It's
you can
weird.
share what you want, but it's obviously a topic on the show. I don't know. I kind of want to dive into that a little bit just because.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I find myself writing my better songs when I'm sad, and then, but like not really. Like I used to say that, but now it's kind of like if you're just always writing, you're always writing in different moods and things just come out how they come out. Like I wrote something, I was really sick a few days ago, like throwing up, and I was laying in bed and I wrote a hook, and it's like my favorite thing I've written in weeks. And I just,
Oh,
in like 3 seconds, it was like 4 bars came to me. I wrote it down. I was like, nice. And like I felt whatever. But the mental health with it all is it's tough because I find myself like glued to my phone and always on my phone and always checking stats and almost feeling like I need to be having like interaction where it's like, oh, are people liking my photos? Am I getting plays? What are my numbers at? What is this? That's where the careless moniker comes back into that a little bit more. I love how I keep holding it up without actually seeing it, but the careless, like that's where it comes from. Because you can get really wrapped up in those things, and you're also putting yourself out there. I have a couple buddies that are artists, like in like painting, like the one that designed this cup. He did like half the album artwork. His name is Joe, Joey T, and he did like half the album artwork. All the singles leading up to the big three at the end that were the feature ones. My buddy Joe did, and like we talk about it a lot, where it's like you're putting yourself out there, you know. Um,
yeah,
and that's like goes back to me saying like as a kid like crying when I sang alone, and like I'm still like that, you know what I mean? Like when I put out songs, there's a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of auto tune, but I definitely auto tune everything, so when it's put out it's like pitch perfect, and when I'm live it's not. And so there's always like a lot of insecurity that comes with that. And like I have a song called Seasonal Depression because I find myself going in and out of depressive phases, but not as much lately, being a little bit older. But like I know people around me that struggle with stuff like that. But I mean, with music, you know, you're trying to like tap into the parts of you that have the most emotion, really, you know, and some of that's sad, some of it's pure anger, some of it's like, you know, really happy or like romantic, you know, you're all over the place. You just have to capture it. I think that's where Dylan hits the nail on the head, is that he has a lot of different songs because he's always writing and he's always making music. It's what you're going through at that time. I think Machine Gun Kelly said that about Tickets to My Downfall, that he would go live a life for a night and then he would end up at Travis's studio and they would write a song about it. And that was what it was. And think of it, he has songs called Drunk Face, Kiss
yeah,
Kiss, where they're talking about being at bars getting drunk. And it's like it's about that night. So they can tie it back to something.
dude. I
And that's
mean,
kind of how I am, I think, with most of my songs, is that they're all written in like in some emotional state, you know, whether that's good or bad. So there's a lot of mood swings, I guess you can say.
I think that's amazing. I mean,
But yeah.
maybe you're like, well, it's not amazing because it's like it sucks when you're. But I think that's where great
It's
music stems from. It
yeah,
like
like when
it's the balance of it in a sense.
yeah. And I like find that like my emotional state is tied to my music, because if I'm not making good music, I'm mad or sad about it. I'm never content with like not making good music. The only time I am is this past few weeks because the album's coming out and things have been going well. But I don't have a laptop right now to record on, and I'm getting really antsy. Very antsy, very anxious about what's next because the last of my music comes out on Friday, and then I have nothing, and I still don't have my laptop yet. So I'm like, not gonna lie, like a little emotional about that. But yeah, I've been finding that you gotta detach a little bit from your music in a sense. Like when you make it, you can have a lot of emotion to it. You know, I think Rick Rubin has a really good quote about it that it's one of those ones that cycles around on his page here and there, and it's about like. It's when you're making your art, it's yours. And then when you distribute it, it's the world, and they take it how they take it, and they spin it how they spin it. But it'll always have its meaning to you, and it doesn't have to have that meaning to other people. So
wow, that's powerful.
I've tried to step back from the numbers a little bit more with all my music. Yeah, I've been like trying to step back from like focusing on all the online interaction. It's hard because I definitely have this weird addiction to being on my phone.
I think we all do.
But yeah, I'm really bad with it though. That they were all making fun of me on tour because my time, like my daily allotment, was wild. But it's also because I this is an excuse and I'm just justifying it. But like a lot of nights I'll play like a YouTube like a 10-hour rain video when I'm asleep. So like my numbers might say I was on my phone for like 15 hours in a day, and people are like, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I slept for 10, you know, like, and I had the song and I had that on." But no, I definitely have an unhealthy relationship with social media and whatnot, and I don't even post a lot. I'm just always like, am I gaining followers? Am I losing followers? What are people doing? What someone's putting out a new song? Ah, shit! How many songs have I put out since? You know, like, and I'm always worried. But
I feel you.
Yeah, but no, I think back to the part of like, I don't know, the mental health of being an artist. It really depends on the person, because I was watching the You Never Know podcast with Mike Stud, and then it was Mike Posner, and I didn't finish it.
Dude, I just listened to that today. Holy heck, what an amazing episode.
Yeah, and so there are two people that I look up to a lot, and so I try and meditate. I don't meditate daily. I did meditate daily for a good month this year, but I just end up, my work day is so weird that I always seem to use that as an excuse to not meditate, but yes, back to the point, like they were saying that like when Mike Posner had those hits and he had the record deal and all that stuff, it felt like nothing. You know, like I just passed 100K monthly listeners, which is pennies to those guys.
Right.
But like
but that's still incredible.
Hyped, but I knew I was going to pass 100K the minute that song came out with Zach, because it was a main artist co-release with him and his fans were listening and it was getting his algorithmic push. And the song went big in the first week, and I kind of manifested it. I told Dylan before the Mod Sun song came out, before those songs came out, right when Please Save Me came out, I said I'm going to hit 100,000 monthly listeners before the album comes out. And I also said it's going to chart on iTunes, but I'm not going to put any stock in that. But when it happened, I said to him where I was like, I knew this was coming. I don't even feel like it's just a number. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a bunch of people hit me up and they were like, bro, what? Like, I posted about it and people were hyped. That's cool. You know, it's nice to say that stuff, but it's not like like Machine Gun Kelly called me up and he was like, you're ready. It's getting a song. Like, it wasn't that. You know, it's not like your wildest dreams come true off of a number on a screen. But I do put a lot of stock into it. But I'm still very, very, very proud that I hit 100,000 monthly listeners. The song with Zach is doing great. I got verified on Instagram finally, so that's cool. That makes me feel like everything I say is factual now. Like, you just gotta take it. Like,
yeah.
It's all fact.
So voter fraud, is that a thing? No, I'm kidding. We're not gonna go there. Yeah. No, that's amazing.
Yeah,
so you're a celebrity.
Say,
I'm in the presence of a celebrity now. Wow. Shoot.
Yeah.
So TMZ.
But no, like things like this where it's like it didn't change anything.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't really change anything. Like, yes, am I maybe going to have a higher DM response rate when I reach out to people bigger than me? Maybe. But I reached out to a ton of Kendama players the week before, and most of them got back to me. Like, I think I hit up 20-something people, and like 10 of them got back to me. That's a pretty good ratio for DMing people you don't know at all. And when the check came in, like a bunch extra hit me after. But I was like, okay, I guess that's cool. But like, you know,
it sucks. It sucks, but it's like cool, like because it's like it validates you, and then other people see that and they're like, "Oh wow, this guy must be important."
Yeah.
So like, let me talk to him.
that's what Mike was saying, Posner, where it's like you're an artist and it's already sketchy enough to the general public. You know, like my family doesn't really think of me as a musician because I have a job,
Right.
and I went to college for a degree and I got a job in that degree, and they just assume that the music is like something that I do, like watching football every Sunday. But it's like I'm doing this all day long. It's a business, and like it's not thriving, but we're getting there. And Mike was saying that when you get the record deals or you get these certain numbers,
Oh shit.
people that don't know it, they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you did it. You can do it. You
Yeah.
can do it." But it's like,
Yeah.
I don't need you to fucking tell me I can do it. I'm already doing it. You know what I mean? I am doing it. What would change if my streams were getting me enough money or were generating me enough money to pay for my rent? I would still be making music. I would still be hitting up Kirk for artwork. Dylan would still be talking to me every day. We'd be having podcasts about my album coming out. It would still be the same. You know what I mean? It's like, it would just be a different scale. So I think that's what they were kind of, I didn't finish their podcast, but I just believe that it was going to circle back to, you know, enjoying what you do and not the outcome, you know? So I have a hard time getting there, but I'm at least being cognizant of it is going to help me going forward, you know?
Absolutely. And I think you definitely should try and finish that podcast. It's remarkable.
Oh, definitely.
It's probably my favorite one that Mike has done on that show. Like it just was like they bounced off each other so well. They talked about, you know, because they have the past together at Duke.
Exactly.
All that. So
he's had a lot of friends on though, and that's what I like. And that's the other thing with Rogan that I realized that people love about Rogan is that even though he interviews a lot of random people, he does have his friends on a lot, and those are some of the best episodes in my mind. And so with Mike, a lot of these musicians and these entertainers and these athletes, like they know him. You know, they know him well. And that's what makes for a great conversation, not just two strangers that are like, so you make music, you know, or like asking about like, what is it? It's like, it's just tough, you know, but they're like, they had the same time where they blew up at completely different scales. Like Mike was campus famous. I got to stop saying Mike. Mike Stud was campus famous, and Mike Posner had a #1 song. So like but it was at the same general time frame.
Isn't that so wild?
Cool hearing how it was different for both of them, but also the same. You know what I mean? That's what I think they were getting at. Like, even though Mike Stud didn't have a #1 album, he thought he did because all of his friends were bumping his music and he was playing shows and he never saw the shit coming. So you just have to like, you know, be thankful for the perception. It's a great way to put it, dude. Great way to put it.
Yeah, that's, man, there's something you said earlier that I was gonna react. I lost my thought.
Was it the Rick Rubin quote?
No, that got me. But Rogan. Like, I think it's obviously everyone wants to be like Rogan, but
that's why I want to start a podcast. But I don't know. I rant too much. I just cut you off. Like, well,
it's all good
without running over.
It's a conversation, and I mean, I don't want to be like Rogan, I guess. I mean, he's like a blueprint, but also I think I really just want to interview my friends and like give them a platform to speak and just like promote their shit, which is why I kept being like, let's get this one in, man. You know, cause like you have something going on, and obviously whatever I can do to help. And it's just like, I don't know, cause we have history. So it's like this might be one of the best episodes. Like, I feel like people might hit me up and be like, yo, that conversation was dope. You know, and just like, cause I don't know. I mean,
I'm amazing. No, I'm kidding. That's terrible.
No, I mean, I mean, the fact that you're wearing the Buffalo Bills shirt, you know, like,
I had to. I had to.
People that my friends from around here, they're gonna be like, if they, you know, they ask me about it, I'm like, you better have bought or heard his album. You know, like, he's putting on. Perfect. That's just how the Bills community is, though.
Let them know when they buy the album. I'll send them a beanie because I'd rather people get like, I don't know.
It's free advertising.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, as much as I want to make money on a lot of this stuff, I'd rather, you know, just give back to some of the people that are like going to support me, because there are people close to me that don't support me at all. So I'm just like, okay, if a random stranger or a friend of a friend is going to go out of their way to do something, like, I want to like kind of like, even though you can say my music is what I'm giving to them, it's like, no, like, you're allowing me to make my music and validating that I can make music. So let me give you like a beanie for the winter. It's cold up there in Buffalo, you know?
Hell yeah. Isn't that a wild thing now? Like, people closest to you may not like see the vision or support, but like people that live states away, or just like you've only
Yeah.
met a few times, or just like they think you're like the shit or whatever. It's just like it's
Yeah.
weird. It's
I
weird.
It's also something to where I feel like perception as well. Like you might think like because a lot of my friends do listen to my music. They're just not like an average everyday listener. Like they are gonna listen to the album when it comes out. You know what I mean? But they might not be keeping up on every single release. But I've realized that like I can't hold a lot of my friends to that because they're not social media people or like they don't listen to rap or like they just don't get my posts in their algorithm. So it's like you kind of got to cut people some slack when they're around you, but and I've noticed that people always say like my hometown was the last people to fuck with me, but it's like where was your first show? It was in your hometown, and who came?
I
All
hate
your
that.
family and friends.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm never gonna say that. Like obviously the kids I went to high school with don't give a fuck about me, but guess what? I'm gonna fuck about them. You know what I mean? Did I go to my high school reunion hyped to see everybody? No, I went because people dragged me, and I was like, cool, let's bounce. It's like if you don't still talk to me, whatever. So back to the point of like I still played all my shows in Connecticut. You know what I mean? For the longest time. The people that came were all my friends from Connecticut. Even when I was at school in New Hampshire, where was I playing shows in New Hampshire with my buddies? You could call that my hometown at that time because that's where we all lived. I knew a ton of people there. Like Dylan gave me that spiel once because I was like, your hometown never fucks with you because I was talking about being on tour. And he was like, bro, you played like 8 shows in Connecticut, man. Like, and you bring people out every time. That's your home state. That's your hometown. It's like Dylan in Western Mass. He's a fucking legend. Basketball, hoops, fades. You know what I mean?
He's a low key
Rap.
celebrity.
Like, that dude has done everything his whole life. Everything.
I know. You see that someone paid like he went through he was getting food somewhere or like chicken or whatever because he loves his chicken.
Oh shit! Yeah.
And
Holy
the
shit.
guy he pulled through and the guy was like, "Yo, you're a legend. Like I listen to your shit very often. Like don't worry about it, man."
But that's the thing. He had a billboard in his hometown,
Yeah.
and I just want to let you know this: that like I will be that same guy that will have a billboard in my home area for no reason, just because he got a good deal on it. And he was like, "Who doesn't want a billboard?" Like I saw some kid that I barely know, just like another internet rapper, and he posted a photo today of a billboard with his music on it, and he said "just manifesting," and all I thought of was like, dude, that's like a $500 deal away from having that for a week or two. And like you could just do that for yourself. Like Dylan is an artist. He designed the artwork and then he contacted a billboard company. He knew there was a billboard right where all his buddies went and he paid for the advertising on it. And all I'm thinking is like people act like fucking like you're getting your shit in Times Square and you have to like play all these political games. It's like, no, just find out who posts those billboards, contact them, get a quote, and then figure out when it's worth it.
Yeah,
and like Dylan does that, and then people in his hometown are like, "Look at this fucking kid! His album's on iTunes." And you're like, "Yeah, all of his past albums are on iTunes too." You know what I mean? But it's like perception. People don't get it. People aren't in the everyday music business, so like some of the stuff we do, like we know what's happening. You know, like when somebody's like, "Yo, 500 likes and a new song comes out on Friday," like, bro, you had that distributed 3 weeks ago. You already submitted to Spotify. Like, don't play games with me. But
dropping
but that's
secrets.
how it goes, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean the billboard thing is interesting because I mean I've.
But I just realized that people from his hometown probably were like blown away with that.
Oh yeah,
and that was like 2 years ago, I think. I don't even think that was that was Morning Coffee. I think I don't think that was Pretty. Maybe it was. I have my whole entire Dylan Reese timeline fucked up in here because I just listened to too much of his music.
His music's. I mean, I listen to his music. It's just good. Like Time and Money. Chef's kiss, great. That's another story. But I mean, like I met a billboard guy once, a club.
Really?
My cousin was DJing. We were talking. He was like, "Oh, you're a manager.
Card?
Like here's my business card."
Did it look like a billboard?
He had like a golden business card. So I mean, this was in LA. So like, of course, it was probably prime time real estate.
Yeah, no, but I get that. I get that. Like, I'm not getting my name in Times Square, you know.
Oh yeah,
like,
no, that's you got to have that Spotify money for that.
I drive by a billboard in Milford that some lady has had for 10 years now for real estate ads, and all I'm thinking is like, no way can that be that expensive that this real estate lady has had this for so long. Like, I could commandeer that for this week. I could have done that for my album, but I was like, I actually should have, to be honest. That would have been great. Now that I think about it, I missed an opportunity.
Damn.
But
you still can do it. I think he put up Morning Coffee a little late.
Yeah. I think it was when it was actually streaming. Why would he put it out beforehand? He put it out after. I can still do it. Maybe I will.
I mean, come on, think about it. You really only get that week window for the album. Like when it's out, it's like you push it for like a week and then everyone forgets about it. So
So
it could
that's
be
kind of why I
something.
did the singles.
Yeah.
That's why so many singles came out beforehand, because it's like, why drop an album and then have everybody judge me off first week sales when like I could just have all the songs come out ahead of time, have them all get their shine, and then have a final few come out on that day, and then my first week numbers are gonna be fucking huge because it's gonna say I got like 700,000 streams, and people are gonna be like, in 7 days.
Holy
I love
shit!
how I'm just giving away the tips here, but
Oh, I know.
Love, what's his name? I think his name is Love or Love. It's like Lauv. Like that dude is an independent artist, but he does huge numbers. And he had a 12-song album that he put out over the course of 12 months. And when it came out, my buddy hit me and he was like, "How come all these songs are the same?" And I was like, "Because it went #1 this week, and those are songs you already heard them, you already knew." Like, and he was like, "Why is this just trending now?" And I was like, "Because the album just came out now." And he was like so confused. But I'm like, even on a big scale, people do that. But so I was actually really hyped with how this came because I did it with Lazy Boy. I did the same thing. Like 2 songs came out that day. It was like 5 singles and 2 came out that day. And everything did well. Everything got its time. And I appreciated that because I used to put out mixtapes and I'd work on them all year. And then you put out like 12, 15 songs in one day. And then like everybody misses it. And then you're like, what did I do that for?
Right.
But that's also getting lost in the numbers. You know what I mean? Like, can't get lost in the numbers. You gotta have fun with it. If I think about those albums that I put out 5 years ago that I was sad didn't get any plays, I'm kind of happy they didn't because they weren't as good as this stuff. Why would I want people judging my entire character off of that old material? You know,
Right.
the music that I have now, I'm fine with people judging me off of and being like, you know,
like
getting a perspective of me.
Yeah, I mean, like, didn't Russ he's put out like 20 albums before he like blew up or whatever, right? So it's like,
yeah, it was like 11 real albums, and then it was like a bunch of mixtapes before he did the single a week, and he did the 80-something songs before a song did something. So that's not like, that was 2 years after he found the method that worked.
Right. So, I mean, it's, I get what you're saying now. So it's like, you figure out kind of what works for you. And I think that's awesome that you've kind of found that in a sense. I mean,
yeah, like I would love to just drop a surprise album and have people like fucking crash the internet for it, but like we're not there yet.
No, you gotta
be realistic.
Yeah, like, yeah, you gotta have like logic numbers almost in a sense.
Yeah, and even with him, you know what I mean? Like, his whole fucking story was a lie. You know what I mean? Like, he was signed to Visionary and to the major label the entire time he was putting out those Young Sinatra mixtapes. So everybody was like, "Look at this guy grinding underground," and it's like, no, you had like a board, yes, he was still doing everything himself. Yes, you know, he proved himself and all that shit. And I'm not undermining it. I'm just saying that like the general public didn't actually know what was happening, and so I find that like, I just put my music out and I stopped realizing that I'm scrutinizing everybody in the way that they're distributing stuff, and my buddies aren't even paying attention. They just absorb the music, and then if they hear a good song, they like it. So all you gotta do is make good music, and it gets out there.
It all adds. It all adds. It's like a snowball that you're building. I mean, look at our good friend Dylan. I mean, he's a perfect example.
This guy's amazing.
He is. I mean, I met him, or no, he used to do like weekly releases, and he used to send them to me when I was doing the blog.
Yeah, that's how I started, trying to keep up to him. That's all I said, was I was trying to keep up, and I knew I couldn't keep that pace, and so we tried to be realistic. I still have to say, I think I'm definitely slacking big time, but like that dude probably makes like 100 songs in a year. I don't at all. Like maybe 30, maybe.
Yeah, the last time I talked to him, he was like, "Yeah, I went to the studio," and I'm like, he's like, "Damn it, I don't know why I went to the studio. I have like 30 songs ready to go that I could release." I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I'm very fan. I have a lot of demos, a lot of cool stuff that I want to work on, but I just haven't been able to. But it'll all through the day.
Hey, you got to go at your own pace, man. Like that's what I think about. It's cool. I mean, obviously you're human, and like as humans, we all have different things that work. Like some people need a crap ton of coffee to get through the workday. Some people can just do it caffeine free or tea.
You gotta figure it out.
You got to figure out the juice that works for you. So, and you're doing it, man. I mean, like I said earlier, just from the time when I first met you backstage, you know, or in the green room, whatever. Yeah, in 2018, obviously that just till now, where it's like you're 100K monthly listeners, the Instagram check,
So cool. You're catching me at a
just like,
really good week. You're catching me at a really good week. You know what I mean? Like this all just happened.
oh,
So
so perfect.
it's perfect for the album. But this is like kind of what I get at. You know what I mean? Everybody asks me all these things like, am I too logical with the way I put out music? Am I too rigid with my schedule? Like doing all these singles and whatnot. It's like, yo, it worked for me. You know, I'm having my peak of the year the week my album comes out. Why would I think I did anything wrong? Like, obviously you can always do things better, but it worked for me, you know, and I get it. That's different than what other people do. But Dylan, on the other hand, like he put out 4 songs this month or in October last month. And like, that was aggressive, but I know people that do that all year round, you know, and it's like, I can't do that. Like Chris Webby puts out a song every Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like
He's still doing that?
songs a year. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Damn. I know that he at least has the album at least the last 3 years where they were just called Wednesday, next Wednesday, and Wednesday after next, where it was the best songs of that year. So when you think of it, he just put out 52 songs and then he picked 20 that he wanted to put on an album, and they were all like, you know, already out. But that worked for him, and his numbers are wild, and he tours, and he's like a Connecticut hero. I think about it all the time. I gotta link up with Webby. Like I think about it all. Like I met him at Echo and Cody. We're on tour with Dizzy Wright, and Webby was there, and I just went up to him like a fan, and I was like, "Hey man, like I got high the first time, a contact high at your show because so many people were smoking, and I never knew until years later when I smoked for the first time." And he laughed, and he was like, "That's fucking dope. That's what I want to hear from my fans." But then, like, you know, I was just like, I wasn't like I did introduce myself as another rapper, but it's not like I was an artist at the show, like. But still, I got to work with Webby at some point in time. It was cool talking to him.
It'll happen, man. I mean, I feel like you come with the right approach, and you're like, I'm from Canada.
Yeah, the right song, you know, the right song at the right time.
It's gonna happen. I could see it. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
I always tried to open for him. I always tried to open for him when I was garbage at rapping. And now I think to myself, like, I'm glad he didn't get that first impression of me, you know, fucking 6 years ago when I was in college and I still wasn't really like, and I was just doing like mixtape raps where I was just rapping over Drake beats and shit. Right. And it's like, I'm glad that that's not like my introduction to some of these people. But at the time I was like bitter, you know what I mean? You're like, fuck, look at all these other artists getting fans and shine and this and that. And it's like, your time comes. You just got to keep chugging along and enjoying what you do. It's really what it is.
Damn. I mean,
I don't know how many times I've said that.
No, I mean,
feel like I'm just circling back with the same punchline, but
I think that's a great bar to end on. Truthfully, I think you just like.
I'm cool with it.
I just felt the mic drop, you know, right when you said that. I'm like,
phenomenal.
But I mean,
we'll end it with a call to Chris Webby. Let's put it down together.
Hey, dude, I got.
Yeah, exactly. You're like that. You're like, that moment is now.
I wish I was like that, dude.
And then you're like, he's done with the verse. He just did it. I'm like, so what song? You're like, he took one and he remixed it.
Wow, that would have been something. Ray Vans, I could care less. His album's out now. Go listen. Wait, no, did I say that right?
Yeah, it couldn't care less.
Okay, Ray Vans, couldn't care less. His album is out now on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Deezer, Google Play, Amazon. I'm trying to name them all, but whatever you listen to music, YouTube, it's all out there. Go check that. Not on SoundCloud.
I gotta put it on SoundCloud. I don't know why, but I gotta manually do it myself. We're just gonna say that it's not there yet.
No, it's not on SoundCloud. He's gonna do that right now. Perhaps Audio Mac 2. I'll talk to him about that. Yeah. So basically, anywhere you listen to music or whatever service you use, Tidal. I forgot to mention Tidal. Shout out Jay-Z. Go listen to that. Go hit him up and be like, "Hey, I liked your album," or just like, "Hey, I listened to the podcast and you're really cool," or "Hey," whatever you want to tell him.
Hit me up. Tell me my music's trash. I love it.
Perfect. Well, hey Ray, thank you so much, man. This was really fun. We're gonna have to do it, you know. Episode.
We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, for sure. In the future.
We'll do this when I got more things to talk about, but I already covered all my music, and like I said, I have nothing prepared for next month. So this is where I'm at.
Boom. We're doing it, but can't thank you enough, man. You're awesome, Ray. I Appreciate you. Show that Bills shirt real quick before we go. Just
Yeah.
so.
Go Bills.
Yes, sir. A man of the people.
Go Bills.
All right, man. Thanks again. We'll talk soon.
Type.